In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill's Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be doing our last show before the NFL draft. We'll also be talking about the frustrating weeks of both the Cubs and the White Sox and the wrap of both the Bulls and the Blackhawks seasons. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The AHL playoffs are going on right now, so make sure you head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, playoff tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. The weather seems to be turning, so that's a good sign. You know, and sports has been as a whole so far, but other things are going quite well.
Yeah. I mean, the positive we could take here is that we will have a completely new foundation for the Chicago Bears in less than a week.
Yeah, the much anticipated draft is finally here, and it's kind of nice that we're at least going into this draft knowing what the main answer is going to be. And we've obviously known for quite some time now. We know what the Bears are going to do with the first overall pick. And, you know, we've discussed over the past several weeks that we don't think the Bears are going to be trading number 9. At least we don't think. You never truly know. But you're looking at a bunch of mock drafts if you have looked. And I feel like right now, if I'm a betting man, and you know, this is just a prediction, but if I were a betting man, I would say number 9 pick, the Bears take Rome Odunze. That is kind of where I'm thinking right now. That's my prediction.
Um, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they're going anywhere. I know as of late, we've been hearing tons of people, say the Bears are definitely trying to trade up to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., or they're definitely trying to trade back to recoup more picks. And I don't know how they can be actively pursuing both. That seems counterintuitive.
Well, yeah, and I feel like you're kind of in a spot where unless you get the right deal, you're either going to mortgage your future or you're going to miss out on an opportunity by trading back. And obviously mortgaging your future by trading forward. So, I mean, listen, if you stand pat and you get a wide receiver like Rome Odunze get to you, or maybe one of the edge rushers where you say, okay, this will help our team right here, right now, then I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, hey, you know what? We might not have as many picks this year, but we can get a blue chip player that we can need after we draft Caleb Williams. I mean, yeah, Marvin Harrison's really good, but he's not the only wide receiver. It's a very top heavy wide receiver class, no doubt. But I mean, there's Marvin Harrison Jr., there's Malik Neighbors, there's Rome Odunze, and there's a few other names out there. So I think you can get a really good wide receiver to pair with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore without having to mortgage your future. I mean, if you're going to make a massive move like that, then to me, it's either got to be for a great quarterback or you really, I mean, I get it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a very highly touted prospect, but you better be really sure if you're going to be trading up. So I'm okay with standing pat. If it really comes to standing pat and getting a blue chip player that's probably not going to be Marvin Harrison or maybe even Malik Neighbors, okay.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple ways you can go with this pick, and you know, if if the Bears needed to move up a few picks, that would suck, but I think you could do that.
You can, yeah. And again, like it would depend on the deal.
Complicating factors in here because if the quarterbacks don't fall as hard as we're hoping they do. Because I think as Bears fans, we're hoping for at least four quarterbacks in the first 8 picks. Uh,
which right now seems possible, but very possible because I mean, you can safely assume that 4 of the 5 first picks, or 3 of the 5 first picks, I should say, that seems pretty safe, right? Like, the Bears are taking Caleb Williams, and Drake May and Jaden Daniels are very, very likely going within the top 5. I mean, that seems like, unless there's a trade up and something wild happens, I don't want to say it's a 100% lock, but it feels pretty a safe bet, right?
you know, I would think so. I would be shocked if this doesn't occur because here's I'm hearing reports coming out of the Boston beat writers where they're saying, oh, the Patriots aren't very high on Drake May. So if Drake May is the third quarterback, they may want to trade out of that pick. Okay, maybe, but I just I'm finding it harder and harder to um, to feel like you can start a new general manager and head coach in Boston, in New England, without having a baseline quarterback that you want to build on. I realize that you brought in Jacoby Brissett, who is a perfectly fine quarterback, but after the last couple seasons of bad play, are you really trying to trot Jacoby Brissett out there? And I recognize you could have him throwing to a really good wide receiver, but I don't think, having Jacoby Brissett to Marvin Harrison Jr. is the boon that Patriot fans are looking for. So
No, no.
I just think they're sort of painted in a corner of having to go quarterback. Otherwise, they're essentially assuring themselves of next year either being in this same spot or having to trade up into this spot.
Right, exactly. And I think that when you look at this situation, you can read this as, hey, they prefer one guy, but doesn't really mean that they're going to just pass up on the others. I mean, obviously you're going to have a preference, but like you said, if they were like, well, Drake May, nobody else, then you really are paying yourself in a corner.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, here's the pathways for the Patriots. You can take the third best quarterback in this draft, probably not your ideal spot, and then next year you'll probably be bad again because they don't have any weapons or an offensive line, and then you get another top pick to pair with them and do the Joe Burrow thing, where one year you get Joe Burrow and the next year you Jamar Chase, and you build that way. The other one is you get a good wide receiver to pair with Jacoby Brissett, and you probably win some more games than you would otherwise. And then next year you're drafting 8, 9, 10, 11, and then you're in the predicament of, all right, well, you need a quarterback going forward. You're not going to get an awesome one at 8, 9, 10, 11. You're going to have to trade up to the first couple picks in order to get one. And we don't even know what that quarterback class is going to look like. So I feel like it's got to be a bird in the hand versus two in the bush. And they're going to take one. It's just where does the rest of the draft fall from there?
Right, yeah. And I think that looking at the situation with Minnesota, I think them trading up and taking JJ McCarthy, I feel like 60-40, it's going to happen. I think like there's a really good chance of it happening, but it's obviously not locked in because that's going to be a really expensive move up. And is this JJ McCarthy stuff legit? Is it smoke? Is it narrative driven? I don't really know. Nobody really, really knows, but I feel like there is a good chance of it happening. Just it's nowhere near guaranteed.
Yeah, there's so many twists and turns that could happen in this draft that it's so hard to predict what number 9 is going to look like because I mean, we know quarterbacks are going 1 and 2. After that, it is such a crapshoot. Uh, you know, could the Patriots take Joe Alt and be like, you know what, we're just going to build in the trenches? That's a possibility too.
Yeah, sure.
Could they trade out of that pick? That's a possibility too. I think the draft really starts with, I want to say 3, but honestly, if it depends on who the red or the Washington football team, the command. I think the Patriots take Jaden Daniels. If they take Jaden Daniels, I'm not sure what the Patriots do.
Right.
Um, the Cardinals could just stay pat and be like, you know what, we're going to get, our top wide receiver here, or they could try to trade out with one of the teams that are desperately looking for a quarterback. I've heard rumors that the Chargers are looking to get more picks and willing to trade back. That could be smoke too. The Giants, I think the Giants are going to stay put and see what falls to them. I think the Titans will probably stand pat, and I don't think they're going to take a defensive player or an offensive lineman, I think. And the Falcons could go any which way too, but their defense was so bad. I feel like they have to take a defender. So that leaves the Bears at 9. And you have the Vikings who have the ammunition to trade up. And then
Yes, they do.
Then you have Denver, who the only way they can trade up is if they trade that number 12 pick and one of their star players, Patrick Surtain, in order to move up, because they don't have a number 1 next year. And I don't think their 2026 number 1 is going to be that desirable because it's so far off.
Right, exactly. I also think when you look at the Falcons, I think you could go in a number of directions with the Falcons. I mean, they're not going to take a quarterback now, or at least you don't think so. You brought in Kirk Cousins, but I mean, unless you draft a future guy that's going to sit a few years. But if you're the Falcons and you draft Kirk Cousins, you got to be thinking they're in win now mode with that move. So you either get him a defensive help or a weapon. You can go in a lot of directions there.
I just would be surprised if they go wide receiver. I think they're so desperate for defensive players that they're like, well, hey, we will probably have the pick of the litter. That's probably where they're going to go, and they could go edge rusher or cornerback. Because I think both of those could have a run, by pick 13, 14. The Raiders would love to trade up, I'm sure. So, man, this is going to be wild. I still think the Bears are going to. The plan has been to put their star quarterback or their future star quarterback, Caleb Williams, who we're drafting. Spot he can possibly have. And I feel like that is getting him a weapon. And if one of those wide receivers are not there, the next position I say, or the next player they take, I think is Byron Murphy, because I think he can step in and be the 1 or the 3.
Yeah, I could see it.
I really love the edges, but they have invested money on the 1 edge spot. And so maybe they're going to be like, hey, let's get a 3 tech in here because that's the most important position in Flus's defense. So maybe they give him the guy. I know Javon Dexter performed pretty well in the second half of the season, but maybe they find a way to rotate those 4 defensive linemen and just really have interior pass rush.
For sure. Yeah.
But honestly, I would just love to get one of those top 3 wide receivers. Like I said, is Keenan Allen is here on a 1-year deal, and I don't think they're going to pay him. And if him or DJ Moore get hurt,
Then it really drops off on your roster.
our talent severely drops off.
Because then you're going to Scott and Velus Jones Jr. for the time being.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what you're doing. And that's not really where I want to be. If either of those guys are in there and they're wide receiver 3 on a package or in a 4 wide receiver set, all right, fine. But I want Caleb Williams to be able to throw to somebody that can, be a legit threat and not a guy that has to be schemed open.
Right, exactly. I mean, you want to have as much of an advantage for Caleb Williams as possible coming into this because you're going to be trying to win with a rookie quarterback. It's obviously been done many times before, but it's really hard to do. I mean, even if your quarterback has all the talent promised in the world, that's still a rookie in the league for the first time. And you want to give him as much of an advantage as possible. That includes the coaching, that includes the personnel on the field.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, the Bears have, I think, for whatever faults that Ryan Poles has, I think he's really learning the lesson of where the Bears have failed historically at developing and choosing the quarterback. And, the good thing is, I don't even want to speak this into existence, but if Caleb Williams were to fail, I think it's one of those things where nobody's going to fault them because they're like, that was the consensus number 1 dude. But they've looked back and they're like, all right, well, we've had bad coaching staffs or bad culture or bad, talent around them. We're putting this young quarterback with an improved offensive line, with legitimate weapons all around him, and a new offensive coaching staff that is, geared towards making him better. And the Bears weren't a number 1 pick team. They weren't a great team, but the second half of the year, they were actually a pretty decent team. And so you're putting that number 1 pick on a team that finished the season fairly strong. So I think the lessons have been learned, and regardless of the outcome, you're seeing Caleb come into a really strong position.
Well, let's evaluate this for a second, this situation, and compare it to the Bears drafts of the past. This is the first time in my life where the Bears are going to be taking the consensus number 1 quarterback and number 1 asset in the entire National Football League draft. I mean, you can look at the past and say, okay, Mitch Trubisky, that class, that 2017 class, there was a lot of debate over who was number 1 overall. A lot of people, including myself, were looking at Deshaun, what's his face? Why am I blanking on his name? Deshaun Watson. And then obviously, Pat Mahomes ends up being the great one. And, people point to Mitch Trubisky, but there was debate there. I mean, Deshaun Watson felt like the most talented at the time, but there were a lot of people that pointed to Mitch Trubisky and said, well, he was accurate in college. Look at him. Then you kind of go back and say, okay, when we took Rex Grossman, was he the highlight of the draft? No. Was Kyle Orton? No. The best quarterback you ever had, you traded for from Denver and Jay Cutler.
After he'd already been named to a Pro Bowl.
Yes, exactly. So he was already an established asset. So Justin Fields was in a class with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was one of the more hyped up prospects in this generation, really. I mean, we compare him and his hype to what like Andrew Luck got, and you could even go back to Peyton Manning, and that was a long time ago. Peyton Manning, the Bears just missed infamously, but here the Bears are. They're going to take the number one quarterback asset hands down. This doesn't mean it's going to work out in the NFL that way. We've said many times on this show ad nauseum that the number one quarterback in the draft does not always translate to being the best in the National Football League. There's no guarantees here with anything, but this is a situation where the Bears are getting that number one asset. And there is no debate. There's nobody saying, well, really, Drake May should be the number one quarterback coming out. Drake may end up having a better career than Caleb Williams. We don't know. But as of right now, there's no debate over who the number one prospect is. It's Caleb Williams. So the Bears are taking the highest ceiling talent quarterback they've ever had. Ever. We could talk about Justin Fields' ceiling. It wasn't listed quite where Caleb Williams is right now. And we needed some luck to get here. This was all in part with that trade with Ryan Poles and the Panthers. We don't have that number one pick if you don't see the Texans throw a Hail Mary against Indy.
With a 2-point conversion.
Yes. You need a Hail Mary and a 2-point conversion. Every star, every planet in the universe had to line up in such a way for this all to happen. And it did. And here's where I'm going with this. This to me feels like the last grasp. If this doesn't work out, then fuck, man. I don't know what else to say. If Caleb Williams is not great, how else can you design getting that elusive quarterback better than this?
Yeah, we're picking a Heisman Trophy winner who has been the guy for 2 years now. The consensus number one guy for 2 years, and you're putting him in with two good wide receivers, two of the best wide receivers in football, an upgraded offensive line, and a big money free agent running back. On a team who the second half of the season was one of the better teams in football. I take that back. They were a very competitive team, and they had one of the best defenses in football the second half. So you put that together, and not only that is, I want to say this about Caleb Williams, is Mitch always seemed like a nervous guy, never confident. And
you had to turn off the TVs at Hallis Hall.
Yeah. Justin put on the front of being a confident guy, but it seemed like have you ever seen the old skit that on Saturday Night Live? You're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. It feels like if a lot of times when Justin Fields would go out there, it felt like he had rehearsed that as an affirmation rather than legitimately being confident. And I love Justin Fields, so don't mean this as a negative. It just, I don't think that the players on the field loved him. In the locker room, I think he was genuinely charismatic guy, but I think presenting that on the field, especially when he had was had adversity on the field. I think having that confidence on the field wasn't legit. But
We saw him get rattled in a number of situations, and he never seemed like a nervous Nelly talking, to the media, but man, have you listened to Caleb Williams talk?
yeah, that's where I'm going. Is Caleb Williams, without a doubt, is a confident dude, both in his football ability and him as a person. He knows who he is, and that dude is just exudes confidence.
Yes, and that's one thing that has always stood out to me about him. And I know earlier in our shows when we still had Justin Fields, we expressed a number of concerns about Caleb Williams, and again, we don't know how this is all going to turn out, but the one thing that has always stuck out was the confidence. And you know, I've even said in the past, maybe just that cockiness is kind of what this team needs. And hopefully he could bring that and put it to good use because there's a lot to be said about a guy that exuberates confidence like that. I mean, it makes you feel like he's not limiting himself in any way, shape, or form. And that's what you hope to get on the football field with him.
I mean, just the other day he talked about how he wants to play for the Bears for 20 years and beat Tom Brady's records.
Yeah, and he knows exactly what he's coming to. He knows he's coming to Chicago. He knows the situation with the Bears. He knows the history of the Bears and the quarterback controversies along the way. He fully understands it. And this comes after so much crap from Colin Cowherd and other people trying to say, "Oh, I don't want, he doesn't want to be here. His father wants to buy stake in the team." Stuff like that. And we heard those stories, and it just that's why that stuff is what it is, and you take it with a grain of salt. And we sometimes get caught up in it when we want to take it with a grain of salt, but we kind of hear it and we're like, yeah, well, it's been a hellhole for quarterbacks with the Bears, so we should believe it, right? But you know what? That's why you see this all play out. Because I don't think Caleb Williams, for 1 second, is thinking about coming to Chicago and saying, "Man, I don't want to be here." I don't get that vibe from him.
No, no, like not at all, not even a little bit. And I know you're like you said is we've heard reports months and months ago about it, but I think that was just personalities trying to stoke fires and get clicks. I and maybe he even felt like that early on before, but
Sure, it's possible.
I truly feel once he went to the combine and met Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, and then the pro day, and then coming here, I think he is just over the moon, ready to come.
Well, and here's another thing too is we were not 100% sure what the quarterback situation was going to be. So he might be thinking about Chicago not even as a possibility.
I mean, that's a possibility. That's a real possibility because we didn't know what was going to happen with Justin Fields, and now that he's gone, this has paved the way to. I mean, you're the starting quarterback because Mark Rippon is just here because he knows the Shane Waldron system and knows the verbiage. And Tyson Bagent was this undrafted rookie out of Shepherd University. God knows where that is. I still don't know.
I don't either.
And I think he understood the concepts of the offense last year. I just don't think he has the arm to be the dude.
Right.
I think,
He's a perfectly fine backup at most.
I think he's a super confident dude. I think he's very smart, and I think he can be a decent backup in this league. But Caleb Williams is going to come in and just absolutely be handed that there's going to be no quarterback competition. There's not going to be an Andy Dalton situation or a Mike Glennon situation where QB1 and then they're not going to have that. This is going to be Caleb Williams' team handed to him.
Right. Yeah. And, that's another thing, too, when we talk about past situations. When Mitch Trubisky was drafted, hey, they had already signed Mike Glennon to a 3-year deal, 1 year guaranteed, to a decent amount of money. And then before Justin Fields was drafted, they had already signed Andy Dalton. That was already put in place.
And Andy Dalton, remember, quarterback or QB1. The Bears tweeted that out. QB1.
Mm-hmm.
And like none of that helps the situation.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
I understand having competition for positions, but that's an unnecessary dynamic, that a poor dynamic that you're creating.
Right, exactly. You got to let the due diligence play out when it comes to evaluating the situation. But again, we're not going to go through that.
Nope. That's the one nice thing here. But the other interesting story that came out, and I still think this is smoke. Maybe it's not fully smoke, but the Marvin Harrison Jr. wants to play for the Bears.
I mean,
now, could it have been like a stretch of he would love to play with Caleb Williams?
Right, exactly.
On a team where it's going to have an offense built in already, and he won't have to be the dude. He can be, the pressure's off of him to be the guy, but he has a good quarterback there, and they've got a good defense, and he's not gonna go to a dog shit team. Like, oh yeah, that's probably a real thing, but that's a big difference between trying to force his way to the Bears.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's a way you can take a quote or opinion and put it way out of context. And yeah, I'm sure he would love to play with Caleb Williams, but that doesn't mean the Bears are going to necessarily trade up to move him.
Yeah, I mean, like hypothetically, say he's still on the board at 6 or 7. Yeah, at that point, if you're the Bears, you probably consider moving up. But you're not moving up to 3 or 4 to try to get him. I just think that's stupid because
that's a steep price.
Yeah, you're probably having to trade number one pick next year, and that's putting you in another shitty position where you don't have full draft capital.
Right.
And several years ago, I did like a deep dive analysis over a 10-year period. And I did this without any sort of, research into if anybody else had done something like this. I just completely blank, created my own criteria, looked at every pick over the last 10 years. And I didn't see any pattern of one team just being absolutely better than other teams at drafting. Within, some teams were slightly better, but nothing like, oh man, this team is just so much better. What it came down to was teams that have more picks wind up with better draft classes. That's the common factor. And recently, I found out that like statisticians and other people had done actual research into this. And one of the bigger studies apparently was the dynamic where you always want to trade back. And I kind of read the article, and I sort of disagreed with the premise of, oh, you always want to be trading back. But when I thought about the why you should always be trading back, it's because you're accumulating more picks. It's not the trading back part. It's
right.
The accumulating more picks. That's the premise there. And they also found that no team or GM on their analysis, they Ozzie Newsome, the old GM of the Ravens, they found he was a better draft pick person than anybody else. But other than that, most teams were within that standard range of how good they hit or how often they hit. It was how many draft picks you have. And really what this boils down to is if you're Ryan Poles, just step back, is they talked about the failure of hubris of the GMs where they think they're smarter, so their picks are going to be better, so they can trade up because they feel they're better. But really, if you just trade back and get more picks, you're going to be better off. But you know, I don't know if Ryan Poles subscribes to this view, but I don't. I I really believe him when he says that he wants to build through the draft, and trading a future number one to move up for a specific player is not the way you're doing that.
Right.
The where we're getting to the point to is, last couple of years last year we just had a lot of cap space. And this year we did too, but we used most of it. We still have a bunch, but now is the time when you've got to take multiple swings and get as many good players as you can to start replacing high cost players with inexpensive draft picks. And that's how you're going to be able to maintain being a good team consistently, is keep replacing expensive players with inexpensive players that are younger and better, or younger and just as good, or young and almost as good. And I think and having 4 picks is not going to do it. Losing out on your first round picks is not going to do that. You're going to need 7+ picks every year. And that's really my long way of saying I don't want to trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr. I would rather stay put at number 9 and use that to plug a hole.
No, that's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah, I just think there's going to be a very good player. I still have a pretty, I don't want to say strong. I have a decently strong feeling that Rome Odunze will be there, but if not, there's a lot of good players.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not make or break with him.
I mean, at that point, you'll have a good offensive lineman and you can put in. And you could go with if Rome Odunze is not there, you'll likely have your choice of any defensive player on the board. And you could still trade back. So I think that's the way to be, is you pick at 9, try to get the best player available.
Agreed.
And then the one other thing is I'm hearing rumors that Ryan Poles could be interested in trading Larry Borom. Apparently, he got an escalator in his salary based on performance, so he'll be making like $3.25 million next year. And the report basically is that Brian Poles doesn't think he's worth $3.25 million, so may just try to move him for a draft pick. And
interesting.
I don't know if it'll be the end of the world. You did pick up, free agent, swing tackle. And I wouldn't be surprised if they draft another tackle in here or another offensive lineman. So I wouldn't be shocked. And that would help just to recoup a later pick. You'd probably get like a 5th, 6th, or 7th rounder for him.
Yeah, obviously wouldn't imagine much.
Yeah, no. Is there anything else Bears you want to talk about?
Nope, I'll be ready to recap the draft next week.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun week.
Look forward to it every year.
All right, should we you know, light our torches and sharpen our spears to go after both Chicago baseball teams?
Sure. Yeah, because I'm gonna keep those spears sharp for when we talk about the Bulls afterwards.
Where do you want to start? The north side or the south side?
Guess we could start with the Sox this week.
This is a bad baseball team. I mean, we knew they weren't going to be good. This team is on a historically bad pace.
Again, I'm gonna ask, why are you playing Martin Maldonado almost every day? What does Kevin Pillar do for this team? What does Paul DeYoung do for this team? I, I
Martin
know you
Malda,
don't. I know you don't have a lot of young guys ready right now, but you have a few that I think you could play more.
yeah. Gary texted me today. Martin Maldonado has a 179 OPS and can't throw anyone out.
And he can't catch the ball either.
He's he's bad. He is just he's toast out there. His like how how do you keep playing him? There has to be somebody better.
He's batting 053. Shouldn't Corey Lee be getting more of these? I mean, I know you can't catch every single day, but
No, you play Corey Lee, and then I'm sure you can find another backup catcher that can do something.
yeah, Martin Maldonado's giving you nothing. And you read the BS from like White Sox talk. Oh, Martin Maldonado brings TW TW. Fuck that bullshit. Okay, you know what I've pulled up right now? I've pulled up the White Sox lineup from today. You had 176 hitting Nicky Lopez leading off, followed by 175 Robbie Grossman. Eloy was your third hitter. He had a home run today. Your best hitter by far right now is Gavin Sheets. He's batting 255. He's got a couple of homers.
And he's sort
Andrew,
of dropped off over the last couple days.
he has, yes. Andrew Benintendi, your highest paid player ever, ever, is hitting 158. Kevin Pillar, who's been washed several years now, is hitting 167. Lenyn Sosa, okay, giving him the opportunity to play is what you really should be doing. Batting 132 has not looked very good, but at least you're giving him a look. Shoemake, who's another guy you're kind of trying to take a look at, 143. Then at the bottom, in all his glory, Martin Maldonado, 053. Quite awful. And
His
first two games in Philadelphia, they were getting no hit until like the seventh inning, weren't they?
yeah, when you have to celebrate getting breaking up a no hitter in the seventh, when you're getting clobbered.
Well, yeah, they scored 5 runs and lost only 9-5. It's maybe to turn in a corner. Well, you got the Eloy 2-run home run the first inning, and then that was it. Today, you had 4 hits.
Only one player in the lineup today is batting over 176.
Yeah, Gavin Sheets.
And he's batting 255.
Yeah.
You don't have very many players with an on-base percentage over 300.
And not only the hitting, but you heard all the, Steve Stone say, well, Pedro Grifol is going to have this team playing focused and hard and fast, blah, 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 blah. Did you see that play in the first inning with the pickoff?
Yeah.
That's high school shit. That throw to the plate was off by 5 miles. It wasn't even close. You didn't You didn't get any outs. Well, technically you did on the strikeout, but it should have been it should have been a strikeout, throw him out. And you got one out, and then a runner advanced, and then another runner scored. And then didn't was it who was it was either left field or somebody uh was it Grossman? It was either Grossman or Pilar. They caught a ball on a hop and then they like fell down and runners moved further. They picked up the ball on the hop and then like stumbled on the warning track. It was very odd.
Yeah, this team doesn't play hard. This team doesn't field well. This team can't get on base. They without uh Luis Robert, um, they don't have any power, any real power. That and we talked about prior to the season starting that maybe they'll be okay hitting, but that pitching is going to be abysmal. And then for the first couple of weeks, we're like, the pitching's actually held pretty stable. And boy, the pitching has gone off the rails.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, a guy like today, Nick Nastrini, you can at least say, okay, he's young, he's working on things, he's facing a tough lineup, but that's who you should be looking at. You should be letting Nick Nastrini pitch. You should be letting that one guy, that other guy who came up, what's his name? Um he came up and pitched after Nastrini against the Royals. He was another prospect.
Uh, um,
Totally blanking on his name. I'm sorry. But either way, you should be letting those guys pitch. And yet they're going to waste time with Mike Clevenger when he comes back. For what?
but yeah, it's especially bad when um your ace, your supposed ace, gets lit up game one of a
Yeah,
series.
yeah. Crochet's last two starts haven't been great, and it's not always going to be pretty with pitchers who are inexperienced in that role like Crochet is. I still think he could be really good, but it is a reminder that you're going to go through some bumps in the roads with a pitcher like that. Um, but yeah, it was pretty ugly for Crochet against the Phillies. Alec Boehm just killed him. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I
so
think part of the problem is like he's got good stuff, but I think our concern was, does he have enough pitches to be a starting pitcher? And he's just got straight heat. Like he's got movement, he's got heat. But and he lit people up the first time that the first couple weeks when he was pitching. But now there's film on him. There's tape on him. People are going to watch that. They're going to identify like where where he struggles or how to attack him. And it's going to be up to him and this White Sox staff to counterpunch and come out there in the next outing and figure out, how to reestablish dominance over these hitters.
right, exactly. It's going to be a major test for them, and I don't see Garrett Crochet. I don't think anyone really sees Garrett Crochet being a 30 plus start, 180 plus inning pitcher in his first year. So unfortunately, I don't have much faith in Pedro Grifol managing that correctly. He hasn't given me much faith that he can handle this kind of thing because part of the thing I'm worried about is he's just going to let Crochet just keep pitching and pitching and pitching, and eventually something's going to go wrong. Instead of trying to, build him up, instead of trying to, just let him, you know, kind of rest the arm at times or workload management. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, and so we're like 21 games into the season for the White Sox. They are on pace to be 23 and 139.
3-18, right?
3 and 18.
And I'm sure they're going to be having stretches where they're at least winning more than one game every 10 days, but it's really hard to do. It's really hard to win less than 50 games in the majors. Really, really, really hard. Um, but yeah, this is looking pretty ugly. And the betting was going into the series. I think they were saying on the radio, people were like, oh, over under 10 runs for the White Sox this series. Well, they scored 7. And how many did the Phillies score? A lot more than 7.
A lot. The one saving grace here is the Twins are terrible. And you've got a 4-game, your next 4 games are against the Twins. And then you get 3 against the Rays and then another 3 against the Twins. So 7 of your next 10 games are against the Twins, who are 7 and 13. So you're facing another bad team. You could probably stack a couple wins in there,
Great.
but I, I, they're 3 and 18. That's just a really bad start.
Yeah. Like I said, we didn't think this team was going to be good. I thought they were going to be more competitive than they have been so far.
Yeah. Um, it's just a bad look over here for the White Sox, and it's not just they just don't look competitive. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. They just don't look like a major league baseball team.
No, no, they don't.
Um, I've seen so many because that list came out of the best minor league teams, and the Cubs had 2 of the top 10 minor league teams, which is nice. But then it became like, oh, which of those teams could beat the White Sox right now? And can the White Sox beat the top NCAA teams? And I'm sure they could. The White Sox would beat those teams, but the fact that
You're
there's a
even
lot of
asking that question.
it's embarrassing that that question is even coming up.
Yeah.
And the thing is we know who the owner of this team is, so there's not going to be any sort of drastic changes. You're not going to go out there and make a trade to try to bolster this team. You're not going to fire your manager. You're not you're not going to I don't know. I don't even know what you could do at this point, but you're not going to do it. You're going to stay the course. And you're the owner, and you're content with just traipsing out the corpse of a baseball team and having no fans there, and then you're going to blame the fans for not supporting the team, and it's sad. You have a third rate head coach. You've got a yes man as a GM. You had the opportunity to hire a legitimate GM.
You
One
didn't
that
even do any due diligence whatsoever.
No, you just went and hired somebody that was going to say yes to you. What you did.
Because we can't afford to have somebody take a year to evaluate. We need someone who's been here to such stupid bullshit from Jerry Reinsdorf. absolute worst fucking owner out there.
I gotta ask: is is could they, if somebody took a year to evaluate, could they be any worse than they are right now?
No.
What did you miss out by having somebody evaluate?
We didn't have to pay more because we're not going to pay Shohei Ohtani.
Like, you didn't sign any top free agents. You
No.
didn't. You didn't overhaul your minor league system. You didn't overhaul your coaching staff. Like, what did you do? What did you do that was so important that you had an internal guy without any due diligence? Like, what?
We added TW and defense with Martin Maldonado and Paul DeYoung and Nicky Lopez and Kevin Pillar.
You added scrubs and old scrubs.
Right. I mean, it's like, oh, hey, Kevin Pillar, good player like 6 years ago. Martin Maldonado, a great defensive catcher and great framer for a very long time. Guess what? He's 37, and the Astros were ready to part ways with him because they saw that he was getting old. Oh, Paul DeYoung, yeah, good in like 2017, 2018, whenever it was. Oh, hey, look at that. Robbie Grossman, okay, he's been a respectable player. Yeah, a number of years, and now he's getting older too. Oh, Mike Soroka. Okay, kid was really good when he came up. Had two major injuries and missed multiple years. Oh, hey, Mike Clevenger. He is trash. Let's bring him back.
It's it's just so embarrassing. It's
We don't have Luis Robert or Yohan Moncada. They're hurt. That's why you were losing with them. Before they got hurt, you were still losing with them. They were hurt they were healthy in the Tiger series. You got swept. What else can you say?
I don't know what else there is to say. It's This team is what they are.
And rightfully so, many of their followers have completely tuned out. But wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, what else can you do?
You know, the Blackhawks had a really bad season on paper, but there is a very transparent plan, and you have a legitimate superstar you're building around. And obviously, we'll get to that, but fans still went to the United Center because they know there is an end game here. They know it. We all know it. We can see it. It was rough. Outside of Connor Bedard, it was rough watching the Hawks this year. But we still did because of this end game. We like our head coach. We love Connor Bedard. We see what Kyle Davidson is going to do. Kyle Davidson has said all the right things. And then there's Chris Getz and his so-called I don't like our team plan. Yeah, well, you didn't like the team last year. People are really not liking it now.
Ugh. I if this team, let's just say that this team winds up with the worst record in baseball history or close to it. Who's accountable? Who's held accountable?
Well, Pedro Gaffol would probably be the fall guy, right?
Will he be?
I think so.
I just I find it hard to believe that they'll fire him. I mean, I guess they could because he doesn't make he's like I believe he's um the lowest paid manager in MLB. So it's not like you're paying him $5-6 million.
Right. And I mean, think of it this way. Griscats can fire him, and the White Sox can use that as oh, hey, our coach wasn't very good. You can still trust us, even though it's complete backwards thinking. But you know how Jerry Reinsdorf teams work.
Yeah.
Like I see, even with the White Sox, even with them, all the years they kept Robin Ventura around, they employed Terry Bevington. Even I don't think that they're going to keep Pedro Grifol beyond this year. Unless the Sox turn it around and have a horrible but not historically horrible record. But even so, it's what you hear from the White Sox and Steve Stone and John Triffin and all the media who talk through the Reinsdorf machine. They read the Reinsdorf teleprompter and they read what he wants the people to hear is, well, we're working really hard on our culture. We're working really hard on our fundamentals. They're identifying all these problems of culture and hustling and playing hard and staying focused. They will do everything to avoid trying to say, we need to actually get some good players in here. You can have all the heart and passion that you want, but if you're not good at baseball, you're not good at baseball.
I mean, that's fair. When Jerry was talking about wanting to have, who was the guy that he wanted a team of?
David Eckstein's.
David Eckstein's. There's a place on every championship team where they need a David Eckstein.
Sure.
But that David Eckstein is like he is like the glue that holds together these superstars and kind of, he fills in those gaps. Like that's the guy he is. Like you can't win with a team of David Ecksteins, but on a championship team, you have those guys. You have a player that comes up big.
You have Albert Pujols, you have Yadi Molina, you have, veterans like that, with David Eckstein being on those Cardinals teams. The main focus, the big player on the team was Albert Pujols. It was not David Eckstein. David Eckstein in his prime was a respectable player, don't get me wrong, but he's not the engine that drives the team. He's a complementary piece. An important complementary piece, but no less a complementary piece.
I laughed super hard. I saw a video today of a clip of a Cardinals game when Albert Pujols was still playing and he grounded out to third and they're like, he hits it and it's like, easy throw over to first and Albert Pujols is retarded. And he goes, retired. I was like, that was a bad one.
Yeah, it's a bad. And he didn't say that on purpose, but sometimes that shit just slips up.
Yeah. What you need then is somebody to hit a home run, then you could just stop your apology and make the home run call.
Right. And there's a deep drop to left for Castellanos.
Nick Castellanos, apology interrupter.
Whenever he homers, man, something happens.
But yeah, it's David Ecksteins are nice. You need a David Eckstein. There's a place for David Ecksteins in this league on good teams. But it does not replace superstar players. Just facts. No. You always have those role guys but is what it is. The Cubs.
Really gross splitting with the Marlins.
I'm trying not to overreact.
Me too.
And say things like one day, oh, there we go. Okay, this is a legit team. And then the next day be like, this is a terrible team. They're never going to win again. Like, I'm trying to find this balance, but do you know what this team's record would be if they could hold, if you would have ended the game in the 8th inning where they had the lead? Like this, there's so many games that they've blown a late lead and they're still in second place in their division. Like, they should have one of the best records in baseball.
It's like you're right there. You're right within grasp, but there's a few areas that still aren't there yet. And it's cost you. It's cost you several games. And listen, blown leads, blown games like that are going to happen in every season, but it's too damn many this early on. I say if you cut those blown games in half, you're in really good shape. Okay? Because, Sean, let's look at the games they've blown that are notable. The 8-0 lead to the Padres.
That's the big one.
Inexcusable. You could even say opening night. I'm going to give that a pass. Opening night's weird. You were playing the defending champs. The Cubs scored a go-ahead run that really shouldn't have scored. I can give that one a pass. Is that fair?
Yep, I would say it's fair.
The game in Arizona, where you were 1 out away and then Marte homers and you lose in extras. That was a gut punch, but you stole one the night before and you won the series.
Yes.
It was a gut punch loss, but I feel better about saying it evens out. Is that fair?
Yes.
They kind of canceled each other out. The game I was at yesterday, the Marlins, completely and utterly inexcusable. Embarrassing. Absolutely fucking embarrassing. That is shameful. They lost that game.
And I've seen people try to say, well, you stole the next one. I mean, you should have swept this series.
You should at least won 3 of 4. You should have won 3 of 4.
Yeah, we'll get to game 4. But yeah, okay, you should have won at least 3 of 4 in this series.
Yes.
And, you should be in first place in this division. Regardless of how the Brewers are playing, you should be in first place in this division. And there are so many question marks in this pitching staff. I know some of them are going to be fixed with people being healthy, but the bullpen, I think we all had question marks going in, and we're this early on, and we are having serious questions about this bullpen.
Right now, you can't trust Alzolay in a closing spot. I think you could bring him in other situations, but not as a closer. It flat out hasn't worked. You've blown every lead he's blown is because he's given up a big home run.
Yeah, I mean, at this point right now, Leiter's probably got to be your closer, right?
I say Ben Brown. Give him a shot.
Okay, I'd be okay with that. But you don't have a lot of guys that you're just super confident in.
No. I love Mark Leiter Jr., but I don't think that's the role for him.
I don't think so either, but out of necessity, I mean, I don't say that like, oh yeah, he should be because he's really good. He's been very good for them, but I don't know. I don't really, there's not a lot of trust in anybody in that bullpen.
No, I get it. Even like Yency Almonte, he's got stuff, but he can be really wild sometimes. So it really hurts that Julian Merriweather got hurt.
Yeah.
That's a blow. And I think I don't know what else.
Neris has scared me at times.
No. I know he got the save the other night, but he has not looked right.
No.
The velocity's down and the command is off. You needed to have him close because you were playing a doubleheader. If you just cut those blown games in half, just cut them in half, I think we're feeling much better. Right?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely feel better.
And it's not like the record's bad. They're 3-18. And if you'd have told, or 3-8, and I would have said, hey, if you'd have told me with this, juggernaut of a schedule before the Marlins series, you were 13-8. Okay. But there's context. You could easily have 15, 16 wins. If you had 15, I'd feel a lot better. A lot. And I know it's just April, but we're particularly sensitive to this because we saw how last year ended. When you missed the postseason by 1 game. And my God, man, going back to last September, how many just gut-wrenching games have we lost? It's so old. But it also goes to show you how competitive you've been. You have been right there. It's right at your grasp. And God damn it, why didn't Jed Hoyer bulletproof this bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing that scares me the most is how many innings the bullpen is getting.
Starters ain't going deep.
No, and it didn't help today that not only did we have another dog shit game from Kyle Hendricks, but he went 4 innings.
He's reached 2021 Jake Arrieta level for me.
He's the scary part is if you listen to Jed or Craig speak about him, I don't hear the urgency in pulling him from this rotation.
No, but here's something I do want to know. Craig Counsell in Kyle Hendricks' previous start gave him a long leash to try to eat innings. Today, after a doubleheader, mind you, after 4 innings, when Kyle gave up some of those runs, Craig Counsell said, okay, that's enough. And they're playing the Marlins. Maybe I'm overreading it, but I think that speaks volumes to me.
I think you got to pull him out of this rotation.
You got Jameson Taillon back.
Mm-hmm.
Pitched very well in his first game.
I mean, granted, it was against the Marlins, but it's soft landing.
Yeah, exactly. Soft landing. Javier Assad looks solid overall. Didn't have his best stuff at the game yesterday, but, he still put together a respectable outing. Jordan Wicks, he's going to battle through some issues, but I think you keep him in there for now. Obviously, far and away your best pitcher is Shota Imanaga. And now we just wait for Justin Steele to come back.
Which I thought I heard that he's getting close.
He is. So hopefully within a few weeks.
Yeah. So, wasn't it? He's going to start a minor league stint soon.
Yep.
So that's good as long as he feels good.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do with Kyle Hendricks?
I don't think they're just going to DFA him outright at this point. He's making 16 some $million.
Do you try to throw him in long relief? And
be the right-handed Smiley?
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
I think that might be your best option. Because I don't think they're just a lot of people suggest the Phantom IL. Maybe it happens. I'm not as sure that they're just going to do that. I don't know.
If do they attempt to treat him like an opener and he goes 2 innings and then it's like a bullpen start?
Right, but does that mean you're going to go every 6 days? Because, that's just more stress on your bullpen. Okay, let's say Steele comes back, all right? Steele, Taillon,
mm-hmm.
Imanaga,
mm-hmm.
Wicks,
mm-hmm.
Assad.
I'd flip-flop those two, but yeah.
Yeah, that's just kind of what you're looking at.
Yeah, those 5.
So if you do a 6-man, an opener, I don't know if I do it that early in the season, but because one thing that we've noticed is that Kyle Hendricks' first innings have been good. It's the second, third, fourth inning is when you get into trouble.
Yeah, it's when they've seen him more than once.
Right.
That first time through, all right. Second time through gets a little shaky. That third time through, dunzo.
Right. And boy, the first run he gave up, that home run to center field, the camera couldn't even track it. That was heading for the old scoreboard. On a windy day with the wind blowing in. They went 460 feet.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Like I said, if you would have hung on yesterday and lose today, it's easier to shrug off. But splitting with the Marlins at home, that's gross. The Marlins reek right now.
They reek, and you were the better team. Just the, you 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 let them get away.
Exactly. Exactly. You let them get away. You let them get away. But I will say this too. I think the injuries are starting to show themselves because my bold take is if you have a healthy Suzuki in the lineup, they sweep that series.
Um, they probably, or at least,
At least take 3 of 4.
yeah, the Suzuki injury sucks.
Ian Happ wasn't in the last 3 games. He had that tightness in his hamstring.
Yeah. Um, at some point they've got to catch a break with injuries. Yeah, Merriweather's that injury sucks. I know you weren't counting on him on the major league level, but Caleb Killian was a guy that you could bring up, and he's out until July, August. Um,
Hayden Wesneski's kind of that guy now.
yeah,
He
uh,
was really good against Arizona.
he was. It would be nice to have both those guys.
And Hayden Wesneski, he's the guy, you see the stuff. You just want it to come together.
Right. Um, Steele's been hurt. Merriweather, like, just just get healthy.
Yeah. That's been a challenge that is unfortunately out of their control. Though I think it's an argument to be made that they should have bulletproofed the pitching staff a little bit, but um,
Yeah, that's the thing is, you had a delicate starting rotation with a lot of young players. Young players don't tend to go deep. If shorter leashes with them, they, um, the later in the game is when they start to break down quickly. You use more of the rotation. They should have had a better rotation with more guys that they felt confident with. Open up the purse strings, spend a little money, bring in guys.
even the bullpen, you know, you had veterans like Kenley Jensen and David Robertson and a few others out there where you could have brought in for a few $1 million and it was perfectly reasonable.
My boy Andrew Chafin,
Yep, him
I was
too.
yelling to bring him back.
Him too. Because Smiley is like your only lefty, unless you have Luke Little, who's been up and down. And Luke Little, he looked really good yesterday when I saw him. He's had one really horrific outing, but I think there's more good than bad in Luke Little. It just seems he's got to find that consistency. But other than that, you don't have much lefty stuff in the bullpen.
Nope, we've been talking about that. We talked about that, and I just don't understand. And you know, I don't. I wish this team had a legit closer, and I think that's was a Jed kind of philosophy of you don't need a closer, like a designated closer, but I think you do. I really think you do.
Yeah, you need
Do you
guys who
necessarily
can.
have to mean that they go and pitch the ninth inning? Not necessarily, but that guy that you put in at the end of the game at a high leverage situation, whether that high leverage situation is the eighth or the ninth, hell, it could be the seventh. You're like, man, we're up by 2 and we've got the heart of their order in the seventh. Let's just go bang that through and take this home. Like that high leverage guy that you can count on day in and day out. Like Do the Yankees win all of those titles without Mariano Rivera, who just absolutely was lights out
No.
and shortened that game? When when the Cubs played the Indians in the World Series, the Indians had two guys they counted on, and one guy could go 2 innings. So you almost had to score all of your runs in 6 innings
Hmm.
because you really weren't scoring in those last 3 innings. Like you, it shortens the game. It just absolutely just a guy that you're confident in shortens the game and gives you more options to manage your bullpen for those other innings. It would be amazing if your starters could go 7 and you had that ninth inning guy, and then you're just like, I just got to worry about the eighth.
Right.
You know, but
Hell, go back to 2015. Remember how good Hector Rondon was?
yeah,
You felt like you could trust him. The one I really miss is Wade Davis. One save blown all year. Like it was like 32 of 33 opportunities. That was a closer. You could just trust him to get the final 3 outs. It's I like Alzolay, but we saw him be effective last year, but he was never dominant. And you are better served having a dominant closer. You see guys like Emmanuel Clase, Yohan Duran, guys throwing 101 miles an hour with movement that shouldn't even be possible. That's what I fucking want on the Cubs. So tired of this rag arm shit.
yeah, give me informed Joe Borowski.
Meh.
Uh, give me give me 1998 Rod Beck.
That comes with saves and vibes.
It does. Can you imagine if you had 1998 Rod Beck with uh you know this current Andrew Chafin? You know how much shenanigans would be going on in that bullpen?
Oh, they'd just be drinking beers and having a good time. They'd
Like,
probably have like pickup trucks like driven into the bullpen area and like a grill with like sausages and steak, like a charcoal grill. And you have like the staff come down. That's gonna set the fire alarms off.
and when they come down to complain, they hop in four-wheelers and do burnouts around him, just kick dirt on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, it's just like two Kenny Powers out there.
Ah, that'd be so
Oh,
great. Rest in peace, Rod Beck.
the shooter. Yeah, I just want to feel confident um in the closer situation. And Alzolay he has been bad this year.
He's had I think he's had one outing where he legitimately looked like himself, and that was in Seattle in the finale because he blew away the first 2 hitters and then got the pick off. Should have struck out all 3. They missed the ball 4. That should have been a strike. But even in the saves he did get, remember the save against the Dodgers? That ended on an absolute rocket line drive that Bush dove and caught. That was a tie game if he doesn't catch that.
Right. Give me 2007 Carlos Marmol.
So walk the first 3 guys and then strike out the next 3.
That year, he got a vote for National League MVP.
Yeah, he was good.
He averaged 16 strikeouts per 9.
Yeah, that slider was filth.
Uh, yeah, I just want consistency, and I I'm just not seeing it. And it sucks that we have the Astros coming to town, but I guess if they're coming to town, this is probably the best time in years to have them to play them.
Yeah, you just gotta rebound and refocus. We've seen this offense do a lot of good things, and hopefully it can continue to do that. And hopefully, Jordan Wicks can look solid, and you get some good innings from your starters. You play good defense. Just execute the way you have in your wins, because you look, they took 2 or 3 from Arizona. They had a winning road trip. It doesn't feel like it, but they had a winning road trip. You had 2 absolute gut-wrenching, brutal losses combined with some really, really nice wins. So just ride the roller coaster, I guess. We don't want to make this sound like it's all bad, because there's a lot of good. It's just what's frustrating is that there's a few things that could really bulletproof this team. There are a few things that really could have gotten us to that next step that it just felt like the Cubs weren't interested in investing in yet. They can do it in the season at the trade deadline, but you don't want to blow too many of these games, because you don't. We know the obvious answer why, and just got to rebound and welcome the Astros to town. Again, I
Yeah,
don't want to make it all sound doom and gloom. It's just when you've blown as many games as you have and you split against the stinking Marlins, it's just yeah. If this show was recorded 3 days ago, we'd be singing a completely different tune.
right. Um, yeah, but I mean, I guess this is like the Astros have not been very good. They're like 7-15, 7-16, and they've got a ton of guys on injury. And
Yeah, they're banged up.
Verlander's supposed to return, but what's he gonna look like in his return? I don't know. He's like 400 years old.
Right.
Um, but uh, I think he's only pitched one game this year. I don't know. He hasn't pitched very much this year. Let's see, 2024. He's only pitched in one game, and he has a 3 ERA. So I don't know. He's old and coming off of an injury. He's over 41 years old. Hopefully the Cubs can get to him if he does pitch. And the rest of that rotation has been banged up like crazy. So I'm hoping that you could take advantage of the Astros being down for the first time in like 5-6 years. Uh,
Yeah, it would be nice to take advantage of that.
yeah, it just and then what else you got after? Who's after the Astros?
Don't they go to Boston?
Yes, Boston and then the Mets, then the Brewers, then the Padres, then the Pirates, then the Braves,
Yeah.
then the Pirates, then the Braves, then the Cardinals, then the
Wait, wait, wait,
Brewers.
wait, 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 wait. They play the Braves in 2 series, like almost back to back.
They play the Braves May 13th, May 14th, May 15th, and May 21, 22, and 23. And it's not until June that it starts to ease up. And then we get the White Sox, then the Cardinals and the Giants. Like this has been a brutal schedule.
Yeah, it has. And it just makes you wish you didn't blow all those games.
Yeah, it's
But if you're a legit team, you got to just go out and beat them.
yeah, I mean that's it. This is not an easy division. It's a it's a lot of parity in this division, and you've got to if you want to separate from them, you've got a lot of games against the Brewers, Reds, Pirates, and Cardinals. Win them.
Yep.
That's how you're going to win this division. They're all these teams are playing the same teams. You got to beat your division. Win
Mhm.
win the season series against the Brewers. Win the season series against the Reds. You don't have to win by a lot. Win one or two more games in the head-to-head series against each of those teams. You win this division.
Yep. Yep.
That's it. So it comes down to. The Pirates have come way back down to earth. They're 500. They're a 500 team now. The Reds are starting to come back to earth a little bit. Cardinals don't
Didn't
look
they
very
just
good.
didn't they just sweep their season? Or well, they did just play the Angels, but
Did you see
the
who's
goddamn Brewers, man.
Mm. did you did you see who's injured for the Angels again?
Is it Trout?
No.
Who? Oh, Rendon.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean that team's a dumpster fire.
Rendon, like that that has to be the worst contract in sports history.
Yeah, it's looking pretty bad.
And uh how many more years is left on that? A 7-year, $245 million contract in 2020. So he's got a couple years left. And he's going to earn $38.5 million this year and in 2025 and in 2026. You've got all of this season and then 2 more seasons of that dude making a lot of money. And he's not going to retire. Why? Why? If you're going to pay him $38.5 million and he's not even going to play anyway, he's just going to be injured the whole time. That dude is done with base. He doesn't care about baseball. He doesn't care about baseball.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough for the Angels.
Let's see. Um, he actually played in 52 of the 60 games this year, but last year he only played in 58 of 162. Oh, sorry, 58 of 162 in 2021. Only 47 games in 2022, 43 in 2023.
Woof.
Man.
That's bad.
And he started the season going 0 for 19.
Yeah. Was it last year when he got into it with a fan?
Probably.
It was on video.
God, Anthony Rendon. He's got a hamstring injury. Running to first base. What is he? One of the White Sox players?
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. You want to talk basketball?
Yeah, the Bulls. Season's over. And last year, they won 40 games, won the first game in the play-in tournament, then lost the second. This year, they won one less game, won the first game in the play-in tournament, and lost the second.
They played
Congratulations, Arturas Karnisovas. You got your consistency.
they played really well in that first game against Atlanta.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about that game. I mean, Kobe White had a historic night, literally a historic night in the NBA. And unfortunately, those stats don't count for anything, but he was on fire. He was a joy to watch that night. I legitimately had fun watching that game. And the atmosphere at the United Center was second to none. I had a coworker who was at that game, and he told me the next day that that was probably the loudest environment he's been at the United Center in decades. He said it was wild there. And the Bulls haven't won any form of postseason game at the United Center since 2015, the Derrick Rose buzzer beater shot. That's almost a decade ago. And the only other games they played since in the actual playoffs, 2017, 2021, they didn't win a single game at home. This was not a playoff game, but a game past 82 that they played at the United Center and they won. And the place was electric. This fan base is one of the most passionate in sports. And Jerry Reinsdorf continues to prey on it. But you know what? The other fan base that he owns, they're done with him. They're straight up done with him. And you know what? He still doesn't care. You can't win. You can't win. You can't support the team because Jerry thinks minimum is good enough. And if you boycott, guess what? He doesn't care. You can't win.
And I know you have like people like Joe Cowley and Dan Bernstein that want to shit on the fans for going to the Bulls games. And like we got to send a message. Here's the thing.
He doesn't care.
You've got two teams in this town. One, the fans don't go to. One, they do. And guess what? He didn't care. He's just going to do what he's going to do. And it's do what, if you're a fan, do what you want to do. If you have joy going to the games, go to the games.
Sure.
Nothing's going to change. Nothing you do is going to change Jerry Reinsdorf. Some teams, your wallet speaks loudly, but there's certain owners that just doesn't. Like the owner of the A's doesn't care. You don't go to the games, all right, he's just going to move. But other teams, they go, you know what? We need to change things because we are losing fans. And when was the last time the Bulls were out of the top 3 in attendance in a year?
Couldn't even tell you.
It's been a long time. Probably 7 years ago.
Weren't the Bulls number 1 in attendance this year?
I believe they were.
They fill up the United Center every night. And I remember a few years ago when Garpax got fired, people kind of boycotted towards the end. You saw some real empty games, but we haven't seen a playoff win since. We haven't seen a threaten to win a playoff game or playoff series since.
See, Bulls were number 1 in attendance this year. Number 1 in attendance last year. Number 1 in 2022. They were 2021, they were 7th, but that's not fair because that was a COVID year and there was
different markets had different regulations.
Like the Jazz were number 1 in attendance that year because Utah just had no restrictions. So 2020, 2021 and 20, I guess that 2020 was a COVID year. Let's see, 2019. Let's count 2019. Bulls were number 2. 2018, Bulls were number 1. 2017, the Bulls were number 1.
And those are some awful teams.
2016, Bulls were number 1. 2015, the Bulls were number 1. 2014, they were number 1. 2013, they were number 1. This is wild. 2012, number 1. 2011, number 1. This is getting me funny. 2010. Here we go. 2009, they were 2nd. You have to go back. That's a long time to be, in one of the top teams in attendance. 2008, they were 2nd. 2007, they were 1st. 2006, they were 2nd. 2005, they were 2nd. There's only a couple more years of this. Here we go. They were 3rd in 2004. You have to go back to 2003 before they fall out of the top 3 in attendance. And they were 5th. And they were only 800 from being number 1, 800 fans a game. That's wild. You got to go back 20 years. So Jerry's just got that built-in audience. That Bulls just make money.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And so that game against the Heat. I stupidly thought they had a snowball's chance in hell because Jimmy was going to be out.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was an opening there. I really did. And then immediately, what did Miami go on, like a 19-0 run, something like that?
They
Everything was crushed.
they Eric Spoelstra had a really good game plan. They stifled DeRozan, they stifled Kobe, and on offense, they took full advantage of Vucevic having no defensive abilities.
I mean,
And they
Spoelstra
should
is one of the best coaches in the league, arguably the best, and he knew exactly how to attack him.
yeah, I mean, they just abuse Vooch. Is if you if you're down low and he's down on like okay, he's can be serviceable, but the minute you move him out near the free throw line and he's got to move, if you drive, he's not going to do anything. He's either going to follow you or let you go right by, and that's what was happening. It was brutal, and so many threes. The Heat were so much better at shooting threes in that game. It was the final score was nowhere near as bad as the game was.
Oh, yeah. I mean, somehow at halftime, they were within 10.
And they finished what? They lost by 20, but they were down by over 30 at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing. They beat up an Atlanta Hawks team that's not very good at home. They're not good. And you saw the Bulls shooting ridiculously. It was hard to keep that up a second game in a row. And even without Jimmy Butler, you're playing a much better coach team with some talent on it still. But I agree. I thought there was an opening. Now, keep in mind, whoever was winning this game is probably getting swept or losing in 5 to the Boston Celtics.
I'm sure, but you know, just giving Kobe and Io the playoff experience, I think that would have been important, and they didn't. They just didn't. And you look at the three. Here we go. The three. Tyler Hero, 4 of 9. I'm just 1 for 2, 1 for 3, 1 for 4, 1 for 2, 1 for 4, 1 for 2, 2 for 4, 2 for 3. Those are their players. The Bulls, 2 for 8, 2 for 11, 3 of 6, 2 of 6, 2 of 5, 0 for 1, 0 for 1, 2 for 5. You just sucked at shooting threes, and they were better at hitting threes. And you were going down there and you had God knows how many turnovers. So many turnovers in that game.
Yeah.
And
you didn't turn the ball over against Atlanta.
No. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 turnovers. Yeah, you just had so many turnovers and fouls, and you were trading 2s for 3s, and you had no answer for Tyler Hero. None.
Nope. At least last year, the Bulls had a chance with like 2 minutes left to win it. But this year, nope.
Yeah, so it's just frustrating. And I don't know how you fix this team, because you've still got Zach under contract, and you've got
Vooch under contract.
yeah, and Ball under contract.
And I truly believe the Bulls legitimately think that he's going to come back and save them next year.
No. What's he going to do when he comes back? What's he going to look like?
He hasn't played in 2.5 years.
Patrick Williams is going to be a restricted free agent. What do you do with him?
You going to overpay him?
I don't know how you can. It's one of those things. Is you worry if you let him go that he's gonna be, one of the multiple guys that you've let go and have looked good elsewhere.
Hasn't Wendell Carter Jr. looked pretty good in Orlando?
I've heard he has. I've not seen very many Orlando games, but I've heard he's doing pretty well. Um, but look at like the poster boy of his Laurie Markkinen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, we were ready to run him out with pitchforks and torches, and he's been good since the Bulls let him go.
And listen, Jimmy Butler was really good with the Bulls, but he turned into like a legit superstar.
Yeah, he was, but he was, the thing was, it was very, we were having the same conversations with, before we gave the contract to Zach, was the same conversations we were having about Jimmy. Can Jimmy's got a lot of talent. Can he put it all together? Do we want to risk the max contract? And then plus Jimmy and Derek didn't really get along, I don't think. And so they made the trade because they didn't want to commit the money, which is totally a Jerry decision. And just think, if they would have given the money to Jimmy, this could be a whole different conversation that we're having.
Right.
You've actually got your first round draft pick this year, but it's not a very good draft, but you're at least in the lottery. I just it's just really sad. What are the odds? The Bulls have a 2% chance of getting number one overall and a 9.4% chance of getting a top four.
And this draft isn't even good.
No, like I mean, all right, I'm looking at the mock on Tankathon, and the top three guys are not college players. And whenever that's the case, usually, I don't know, you don't you don't feel that confident on them. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Um, yeah, it's just a rough time in Chicago sports.
Hopefully the Cubs can find some consistency again.
That's the hope.
I mean, there's a lot to like about the Cubs, but you still got some notable holes you have to get through. But the Blackhawks are done, the Bulls are done, the White Sox are what they are, and now you got the draft. There'll be a lot I think I have to talk and share about with the Blackhawks in the coming weeks, but I will say that Kyle Davidson, I think he said all the right things. He used the words, "We can't tank next year. We got to take a step forward," and that's really what you want to hear, right? I mean, there comes a time where you have to take that step forward. That time is now, and I do think Kyle Davidson understands that. So I think the future is bright there, even if it's going to still take a little time. But when it comes to the Bulls, yeah, it's just you cannot. This franchise defies sports hell more than any other franchise in sports, in my opinion. I mean, you see what the national writers are saying, like the pinnacle of being stuck in mediocrity.
All right, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worse to be where the White Sox are, where they're just an absolute disgrace, or where the Bulls are, where they have no path to be better, and they actually have to be active, do active things to be worse? So they're nowhere near going to be a competitor, and they're years away from even stripping this team down in order to start a bare bones rebuild. Which is the worst position to be in?
If the Bulls or if the White Sox weren't owned by Jerry Reinsdorf and you had more confidence that they were going to make changes in the organization, I'd say the White Sox. Like, it's like, okay, you're bottoming out, but we know how this organization works. And unless it's getting sold or Chris Getz hits some lucky moves, I just don't know what the outlook is going to look like. I mean, at least the Bulls, for as frustratingly mediocre as they are overall, have at least brought us some entertainment. Like they've been very clutch in a lot of close games, and there's been times this season where they've actually been fun to watch. The White Sox haven't been fun to watch at all. However, they do at least have somewhat of a farm system, and I do think there's some talent down there that will make a good impact for them in the future. I just don't know to what level, and just that's a tough question, man.
I just wish.
But the Bulls don't have any path right now towards being a legit champion. And part of that is a testament to the nature of the sports themselves. Baseball, you can rebuild in baseball. If you know how to develop from within, you can build a great team in baseball. And maybe in a few years, the White Sox are a lot better and they have a championship window. But with the Bulls, I don't know how you get there. I truly don't know. You need to get lucky or be in the right spot to take a generational talent, or else you're not winning in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean that's really the thing. And you know, I know when we talked with C Red Fred that he was like you could build around Io and Kobe, and I don't doubt that. But you're just the problem is Jerry will not go into the tax, and you have that albatross contract of Zach, and you're still saddled with Lonzo Ball, who's not even playing and still making $20 million a year, and you've got that awful Vooch contract, and
Yep.
now you're in the position of you're about to lose DeMar for nothing.
And you're not exactly loaded with assets.
No, and your draft picks have not been very good.
No.
The guys you did draft are not awesome contributors.
And
So
that's what's really disappointing to me about AK is I thought our drafting was going to be a lot more effective.
yeah, I mean, Garpax had a lot better drafts. They just were insufferable people to deal with, couldn't keep coaches, and
They never had an identity. There was
no,
never an identity with what they were trying to build.
they were they were they had a terrible relationship with players. They had a spy on the team, for God's sakes. They were antagonistic with coaches. They didn't pay players. Agents and free agents didn't want to deal with them, but they actually could draft well.
I like to think the spy on the team wore like a fedora and a big trench coat. And he talked like in like 1950s Atlantic accent. Yeah, buddy, what are you looking at, sir? What do you mean? What? Oh, you have a cigarette? Oh. Yeah, of course I want. Of course I want burgers. What are you talking about? I want a cheeseburger and some fries and a milkshake. What are you doing? You want a Hurley Whirly bar? I'll buy a Hurley Whirly bar. What are you talking about? I'm totally not a spy.
We make this a regular character. I love this one.
The bull spy.
Gotta
Okay.
throw in a yeah, see?
Whoa. Of course I'm driving a car. What do you think I am? A namby-pamby? You think I walk? Heck no. What do you think I am? Some poor guy that lives on the street? What? You think I'm a lady? What, wearing ladies' clothes? What are you talking about? I'm a man. I'm a big man. I'm a strong man. And thus a new character is born.
And that's how it's done.
The bull spy. Just picture the most generic looking 1950s white guy in a suit and a fedora. What do you mean? I got to get my shoe shined. Hey, buddy, what are you looking at? He's always got a cigarette in his mouth and, where's the ashtrays in this facility? Sir, this is a non-smoking facility. Whoa, what do you think I am, a Mary? Sir, what do you even do here? That's none of your business. Go away. Totally not a spy. And his name is probably just like Dave or something. Just very, very generic. Like Dave Smith.
It was Randy Brown, but I still like this character better. One last thing I want to mention here before we sign off here. There's nothing to do with Chicago teams, but John Sterling, who has been with the voice of the Yankees for 36 years, retired. They
Yes,
had
he
a
did.
they had a retirement celebration. Did you see the gift they gave him?
No, what'd they give him?
They gave him a TV, which the players brought out of the dugout and handed to him.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. But the best is that somebody opened up a Google Maps and they're like, there's a Best Buy 3 miles from Yankee Stadium. So the theory is that they just went, oh shit, we didn't get him a gift. Somebody run to Best Buy.
Yeah, one of the most valuable sports franchises on the entire planet. Oh, better run to Best Buy. You have Brian Cashman just sprinting in the parking lot. Oh, quick! Where's your nearest 50-inch TV? Right over there. Yeah, wrap it up in me, and I need to buy it now. Okay.
Oh my god. They're like they gotta save that money for the Juan Soto extension.
Yeah, true.
They gave him a TV.
Is there like some sort of inside joke or something? Like
I don't know. According to the article I'm reading, he already has 5 TVs. This is Sporting News. So the Sporting News said, da, 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 landing on a massive TV, of which Sterling already has 5, is a bit of a peculiar gift.
Well, thank you for this lovely gift. It is a really, really nice gift. I love this gift. What the hell are they giving me this for?
What would have been better is if they just gave him like $100 gift card to the Yankee store.
Here you go. Buy yourself some merch.
Buy yourself some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. We don't care if you ever get back.
Happy retirement. They couldn't even give him a gold watch. Isn't the gold watch like the ultimate retirement gift?
You could buy that guy a really, really nice watch. You could have. That's a good gift. And you gave the guy a TV. Like, it's the same size TV I had that I like. And if they spent what I spent on this TV, that's just a really sad gift.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a big TV, but like that size TV should not cost that much
You were the
money.
voice of the Yankees for over 3 decades, and you called multiple World Series championships.
He called 5,631 games for the Yankees, and they got him a TV.
Wow.
That's some Jerry Reinsdorf level shit.
I don't know. That's kind of nice for Jerry.
Jerry would have given him his old TV that he couldn't recycle. It's like I tried to throw it out, but the garbage men wouldn't take it.
It's an old Zenith box tube TV.
It's one of those console TV that sits on the ground and has the wooden case around it. The wooden cabinet. It weighs 400 pounds.
Doesn't even work. Oh, by the way, you have to carry this yourself to your car.
It doesn't even fit in his car. He's like, oh, this won't fit in my car. Well, you can't leave it here. They strap it to the top with bungee cords.
He pulls out of the parking lot, just falls and just shatters all over the road.
It's just like when you get a Christmas tree, they drop it on your roof and throw some strings over and tie it up.
Exactly. Oh, man.
He's driving home like Clark Griswold on Christmas Vacation. He's got this stupid TV on the top of his car.
That's what they gave Paul Konerko when they unveiled his statue. Thanks for being such a great player. Here's my old ass TV. What would a Tom Ricketts gift be?
Oh God, something from Gallagher Way. Some tchotchkes.
Here's a discounted Wrigleyville City Series Connect jersey.
Here, we'll validate your parking at the
game. But just this once.
We got you one free game of bowling.
The Lucky Strike across the street. Just remember to show the voucher to the nice fella behind the desk.
We bought him a nice meal at the new McDonald's across the street.
We thought about pushing to the new Culver's, but that was just a little too much.
There was a half a donut left in the box from Stan's Donuts, which it was left over from yesterday's staff meeting. He could have that.
What would a George McCaskey gift be?
You know, I feel like George would be generous. Like, is he dumb? Yeah, but I feel like he would be generous. Like, to be fair, so my stepdad
You're probably right.
was friends with Ed Sprinkle. And when Ed, the former Bears great, when he died, the McCaskies, both Virginia and George, were at the funeral, and he was buried in a Bears casket. Like, I feel like, no players that have left that organization have had anything bad to say about them. Maybe about the team as a whole, maybe about management and coaching and other players. Nobody has a bad thing to say internally about the McCaskies.
You're right. You're right.
I think they're probably very nice and generous people. I mean, like Ding Dong George hand wrote us both a letter back.
He did. He did.
So I feel like, if you were the longtime voice of the Chicago Bears and you retired, I feel like he would do something very special and honorable.
When the day Jeff Joniak retires, yeah.
But, but he'll probably do something dumb along the way. I tripped over my box of crayons and stabbed myself in the nose with my purple crayon.
How do you do that?
I got a crayon up my nose, Mom.
Oh, not again.
George and his purple crayon.
Ding Dong George and the purple crayon. Or when you called him Georgie Porgy.
Oh man. They're making a movie of Harold and the Purple Crayon, and I was
are?
Yes, and when I saw the trailer in the movie, I started crying. I was laughing so hard, just picturing George and the Purple Crayon.
Oh, that's great.
George and the Purple Crayon. Just woo!
They're really making wow.
I gotta look
this up now.
Picture Kevin Warren walking into his office and they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm drawing myself a pretty purple dress with my pretty purple crayon." Made myself a purple fedora.
Oh, it's a live action movie.
Yeah.
Huh. How about that?
Starring George McCaskey as Harold.
Also referred to as George.
That's going to be a Photoshop.
Zachary Levi, Zoe Deschanel, Alfred Molina. Huh. Tanya Reynolds. There's going to be some names in this one. Interesting. I had no idea. I don't see George or Virginia on IMDb. Maybe it isn't complete yet.
It's the live action Harold and the Purple Crayon movie, otherwise known as next year's Hard Knock series.
Yeah. George didn't even realize it was being filmed.
The Bears really think that they're not going to get Hard Knocks next year.
Oh, I know.
Like I can't. Like, we knew last year was going to be the Jets. This year, what other team? It's going to be the Bears.
What are the Saints? Weren't they qualified?
You could qualify, but like, who's trying to watch the Saints team? Like, the Bears are a big market team. They're going to have a new quarterback.
Yeah, they have Caleb Williams, right?
Like, so I just like, who else would be like a worthy team?
Be a great marketing ploy for the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's a dumpster fire. I can't imagine that. Maybe Washington. That's a possibility
Yeah, maybe.
because they're going to have a new quarterback and they got new ownership and a new head coach. And like, okay, maybe Washington. New England, no. Arizona, what the hell are you going to do with them? Nobody's going to be interested. You know what? Maybe the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh, yeah, that'd be a sell.
The Giants, no. Tennessee, no. Atlanta, no. Jets just did it. Minnesota, no. Denver, no. Nope. Vegas, New Orleans.
Isn't there a like you can't make the playoffs the year before? So like there's
Yeah.
qualifications to be on Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. Qualifications. Must have missed the playoffs in the 2 prior seasons. Must have a head coach who has been with the team for at least 1 season.
Mm-hmm.
Has not participated in the show in a decade. Okay.
The Bears are all those.
Washington is, so it won't be Washington. They have a new coach. So Bears. So no New England.
Chargers, no. Obviously, if it's a
Chargers. The Chargers, it's new coach, and they made the playoffs 2 seasons ago. So it can't be the Chargers.
Right.
Giants just don't seem like they very.
Well, they made the playoffs 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, Tennessee has a new coach. Atlanta has a new coach. The Jets did it. Did the Vikings make the playoffs 2 years ago?
Yeah, they lost to the Giants. Remember, they won the division. They went they won 13 games with a negative differential.
So it can't be the Giants. Vegas has a new coach. God, there's
not a lot of qualifiers.
No, this sounds like it's going to be the Bears.
To Georgie Porgy's dismay.
This year, the Bears, the Broncos, and the Saints are the 3 teams that won't have the option of saying no.
Yep.
So I can't. The Broncos? Like, no. The Saints are boring. It's going to be the Bears.
Probably. There's already been leaked rumors. I don't know how credible they are, but people have already leaked the rumors that it's going to be the Bears. But yeah, I feel like those rumors have some legitimate smoke to them.
Yeah. So, I mean, and plus, not only Caleb Williams, so they've got the new quarterback and new wide receiver in Keenan Allen, and you've got the new stadium drama. They have multiple new Hall of Famers. They're going to be playing in the Hall of Fame game, so they'll be starting the practice earlier than everybody else. This is it. George definitely is going to fight it tooth and nail, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Kind of just waiting for it to be official.
Yeah, I don't even know when they announced it.
I don't either. Maybe after the draft? Or around the draft? I honestly don't know. I don't pay enough attention to Hard Knocks to know how a lot of that works, so. But if the Bears are on Hard Knocks, I will obviously pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch that. I've never seen a full season of Hard Knocks. Last year, the announcement came on June 5th. Oh, sorry, that was from a long time ago. Yeah, I'm going to guess. May or June, probably.
Yeah, sounds right. After the draft.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope, I think I've said my piece.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends, how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down. Come
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on the plains.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.